Welcome to episode 221 of The Numbers Game. I'm Jace. I'm here with Nick and Marty, and today we are talking about murdering the competition. Marty, what are you doing over there, mate?
Well, let me just jump on YouTube now because just have a listen to this. Oh, yeah. How'd that sound?
That sound.
That sounded a bit racy, didn't it? I've just got a can of liquid death that I'm about to hook into. Oh, geez, that's refreshing.
Your complexion just changed.
Well, this is the magic of liquid death.
Oh, God.
What do you think's in it? Come on, you know already.
Water out of a tap. We were just talking about water out of a tap.
Overpriced tap water.
Or water out of a hose like we talked about in the 90s. It's, what I want to talk about today is just murdering your competition. And one of the most boring industries I would have to think would be water. You know, not to diss them too much,
not accounting.
but you've got big players like accounting, finance, but water, Evian, mostly it's about hydration. And Liquid Death have come out and created a cult of canned water. They do mineral water as well, and they do iced teas and everything. So, but their whole take is rebellion is good for you. And I was just thinking I wanted to talk about today, boys, what's one bold move you could make in your own business to really stand apart from the competition? And it's very varied in regards to, now we're talking about water here, but dry industries like ourselves, how do we do that and not lose credibility as well when we take on something like that? But have you heard of Liquid Death before, Jace?
Yeah, I travelled in the States last year and noticed it a fair bit over there, and then started to see it more on the shelves here. And actually noticed it because a friend who's in like the yogi and health space actually came out and had cracked the shits about it being called Liquid Death. There's an association with using the word death with something that's meant to give you life, like water is a form of life form and something good. So there's a bit of a side thing of people who were and this is where the branding, again, murder your competition, do something that's so out there and gets attention. If you want to upset a whole bunch of people, just name something like water that's good for you, call it Liquid Death, and then have people unhappy about it. So yes, have heard of it, have seen it. And look, the cans stand out, right? Like, I mean, you can't help but be attracted by the eyeballs when it sits on the shelf and it's got the different colors and the fancy images on there. And if you're going to pay $5 or more for an overpriced can of water, I mean, you want to, I think, the younger crew as well, they want to look like they got something cool in their hand. It's, yeah.
Don't worry about the younger crew, mate. The 53-year-olds are running around like it's better than Harley Davidson. I don't drink alcohol anymore, so now it looks like I'm living very, very dangerously. But I really like the concept, and particularly having a background in stand-up comedy when I was younger. It was always about shock, fascination, agreement, absurdity. And when I looked at Mike Cesario, I think founded this Liquid Death in 2019, he's utilised all those traits. He had a punk rock sort of background, and he's brought himself to the brand, which I found was really invigorating. And just and even the sales, like in 5 years, like something like $263 million of sales. It's worth $1 billion.
1.4 billion?
1.4 billion now.
Oof.
I mean, they raised something like, I think I had it here, it was around 67 million in funding. So hire 345 people, but they've built a whole cult and community off this brand. I just love some of the slogans that they've got for it, like murder your thirst. I mean, reinforcing the brand's hardcore nature and aggressive style. Deaf to plastic, because they give away a lot of money to try and do the right thing by the environment, and they use aluminium cans. So pretty cool. Don't be scared. It's just water. Playful response to people that are intimidated by the brand. And hydrate or die. So you've got some pretty impactful things that come out of it. And I was just trying to think about, how do we apply this into our own genres? Like, I remember a guy, Harry back in the year 2000 did something like chocolate home loans, like Sweet Money. And I was always annoyed because it was pretty catchy. Don't know what the business did, but it was like, it was something different that you don't usually see in our industries. What do you come across, Nick or Jace? Have you come across any businesses and I was thinking about your gin stuff too, Jace. Like there was something where
Death Gin. Yeah, I think Liquid Death copied us and just decided to do water, which I think applies to, you can sell water to more people than gin. But the people that I got together with to do Death Gin, again, it was just like the story at the start was a bunch of the other co-founders were in Rutherglen at a festival, and they drove past a cemetery that was on whatever the road was called. Anyway, and then somebody threw them, we should make a gin, just call it Death Gin, and have a skull on the bottle and some black wax strip. And then all of a sudden, the brand came to life. And I mean, if you go to deathgin.com and check it out, it's like, it's edgy. There's a big skull. It was hand drawn by one of the guy's partners. And, there's some fun slogans on there. I don't have it in front of me now, but it's like a beautiful sacrifice, and it's all about how we kill the 19 botanicals and smash them into the gin, and that's how you get the flavor. So like macerating, and the wording around it. But I do love the idea, and Death Gin's a great example. But the edgy brands that do really cool, fun marketing and have like a great play on words. And I know the first version of our accounting firm, we used our 3 letters of our name, Greg and I and another mate. And, and at the time we were like, but PwC's on the side of a building and KPMG's on the side of a building. And look, and doing sexy branding and accounting, like that's hard, right? But then down the track, it was like we had this opportunity to rebrand, and future accounting or future advisory is what we decided to become. And again, it's still not the coolest, sexiest, funky brand out there, but we're dealing with accounting and advisory, right? But still, now we get to have more fun with plays on words. We get to use rockets and aliens and different things in our branding and marketing. So, I think this is a great one for people to think about. If they're already in business, how can they have fun with their brand? Or if you're thinking about starting a business, what can you, how much needs to go into the branding and marketing idea before you even launch something?
And Nick, innovate is not spelt as innovate. That in itself is like just a little edgy without going over the top.
Nick was ahead of his time 15 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Cool dude.
The marketing brain was just going wild. Man, I think that had a lot to do with someone having the name Innovate already, to be completely honest. But in hindsight, it's actually been a really cool move. It's annoying when you're trying to explain what your email address is. I know that, I can't remember what the business is, but there's a business out there that has Innovate with the end being an 8.
The 8.
I was just thinking too about your question around edgy brands, and the first 2 that I thought of were actually energy drinks. I don't know what it is with drinks, but the first
Red
one
Bull.
I thought was Red Bull.
Monster.
And Monster was the second. And, Red Bull have attached themselves to that extreme sports game, and to the point where, they're sponsoring events. They're actually holding their own events. So that's really unique what Red Bull have done. And then Monster Energy have come in, and they've kind of played the same game to a degree. Like if you ever see Monster Energy sponsorship, a lot of the times it'll be extreme sports, whether it's, motocross or where it's going to be. So it's interesting. They're the first 2 that come to mind, and they were both drinks. But for me, Red Bull's the one. Like if you look what they've done with branding, to the point now where they can afford their own F1 team, and not the F1 team, affiliate teams as well. Unbelievable. And no one was doing what they did, and they really attacked that extreme sport market for sure.
I'm glad you brought up the extreme sports, because this is where Liquid Death is different, and they're obviously trying to differentiate, where they're going for more alternate people, and they're promoting their products at rock festivals and anything that's slightly off the beaten track to really appeal. And how they're getting it in people's hands is they're giving it away at these alternate type of events, where sometimes it's the first time people are drinking it and they're hydrating in the sun, and then all of a sudden they're going to the stores and buying it. And I thought, isn't that brilliant? So something uniquely different, not tagged into sports. You're a little bit different. You're at an alternate rock concert, drinking Liquid Death, and it's very viral the way they get stuff out there. Like they're not spending like mega money on advertising dollars. It's all people sharing it. And probably the point that I've even brought it up, that Charlie had seen it on the weekend and brought it up to me and going, holy crap, who is this actually appealing to here? And it's I'm promoting it now on the podcast, and this is what's happening, and that's how they're getting their brand to be so viral. So rather than just making content for the sake of content, they're actually just building interesting, funny stuff that people are sharing. And I think that's an interesting thing when it comes to social media and creating content. People say, just create a lot of content. Someone will find you somewhere. But we should be always looking to create the content that people absolutely froth over and want to send it to a friend or send it to people because it's really cool and it's really different, and it gets another level of exposure. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think I'm just thinking about our own business here, but it's so difficult to do with service-based businesses because your market share or your actual market that you're playing is so small compared to an energy drink. Like an energy drink or water is something that every single person on the planet can use. Whereas if you look at what we're doing or what Jace is doing, we're mortgage brokers, we're financial planners, we're kind of stuck to a certain group of people, and then we're stuck to that group of people within our country. So I think if you have a brand that could go global and absolutely could appeal to most people, or most people could have use in it, then it's important to think about this kind of stuff. But I think about us, and I don't know, we just have such a small market compared to an energy drink or or any kind of drink that people can consume.
And I think you nearly got to flip it, and it's something I talk to the brokers about a lot in regards to what's your point of difference. And we did a great leadership workout. We've shout out to Phil Evans if he's listening. But and Phil always said, you know a lot of the answers of what you're going to find in finance or when you're doing an activity. Bring more of yourself to the activity. Bring more of your own ideas, because that's going to differentiate you. And I always think with the brokers as well and people within the business, how can you be a point of difference? Everyone's doing a home loan, everyone's dealing with the same amount of lenders. What do you bring to your service as a point of difference? Maybe showing people how to save money, maybe how to invest, how to buy a commercial property for the first time. How do you be more than just transactional and bring something uniquely to the table where the client will always remember you? And because you're a part of the brand that holds credibility, then that can set you apart in a market of 20,000 people. And that's sort of where I think for us in service industries, we can almost flip it more from a personal level. Jace?
Yeah, I was just looking up a couple of fun examples and then tried to find, before I found the professional service examples, I mean, the big ones like Virgin. Richard Branson started Virgin, and his was all about having fun and, having different branding, being cool. Patagonia, they're almost the anti-marketing brand. So when you think of Patagonia, the people who want that and wear that and what they do. Then this one I love because it's like, just straight away thought of the ad campaigns, Old Spice, the guy on the horse and it's, going backwards, and I'm like, have I ever had Old Spice? Would I wear it? But I know the brand. Probably see it in my dad's cupboard when I go past his.
Or mine.
And yours, yeah, that's it. But then try to go beyond, those bigger brands that we know and go more local level and professional services. And this was quick ChatGPT, which is interesting what it came up. And I know this firm quite well. There's an accounting firm called Inspire, and they have a social mission. So basically they attach the word inspire in accounting. Every time you transact with them to do a tax return or whatever else, they will donate a meal or eyesight or do something through the buy one, give one organization. So all of a sudden, hey, you got to get your tax return done. But if you're going to do it, why wouldn't you choose something that has a social mission like Inspire, who donate clothing or meals or eyesight as a part of doing business with them? So I think that's a really cool way to go. If you are going to try and brand and think of a way to do it, liquid death is one extreme. Professional service is hard, but what they say is you do niche positioning where you do something special. And that was a neat little example. And then the founder one as well, you said, Marty, King Kong. King Kong, the digital marketing agency. I think, can't remember his name at the moment.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, Aussie bloke.
He's on Shark
he's
Tank.
got a shaved head. Yeah. Look up his name later. But the King Kong guy. He's in the ads. He gets out of a car, slams the door. He's strolling down and they're really engaging. And it's like, you know what? Like, cool. They're some good Aussie professional services brands that are doing something a little bit different and having a crack, but they position themselves very differently.
I don't think it hurts if you're starting a business to have a red hot crack at it. Like if you're established, it's like a pretty big 360 to go. We're all running around in tank tops and doing finance, right? But it's like if you're starting something new and you want to stand out and you want to get that viral type of, and it depends on industry, I get it. But you got to challenge your thinking and think about how you can get traction, because that can save you an absolute packet in marketing dollars. And I just look at some of the things these guys have done, which I thought was pretty interesting. Go and have a look at the videos. We'll put a link in the podcast. Some of the videos are great. It's like a grandmother shotgunning a can of liquid death, a doctor sculling a can while operating on a patient, police and pilots in uniform, hooking in, and school bus drivers just downing a can before they drive the kids off to school. So it's very very interesting stuff. And they're selling products like they've got coffin snowboards, they've got golf Euro clubs, watches, alternate hairstyling. They're doing collaborations. And even remember you were talking about that piece of art, the banana with a tape on it?
Yeah.
And it sold for, I don't know what it sold for, but it was millions.
Shitload.
Yeah, it was absolutely, a lot of money. So they've got a can of art cost. So they've got a can with sticky tape over it, selling for 10.4 mil, taking the piss, on their website, right? It's just like, it's just having a go at what everyone's, that was an interesting piece of, art that went viral. So they just tapped into it. Yeah. Hot tubs, water tubs with sparkling water in it, and everyone in the ads are drinking this liquid death. I just go, there was just something really, really fascinating on how far outside of the square when you think of other water companies and how it's paid off for them, and the quality of product's actually good. Like when you drink at the end of the day, it's water, and it feels a bit anti-intuitive drinking water through that can. You go, it's you want something more out of it. But it's all credit. And I think as business owners, we got to test the boundaries sometimes and just see what is a point of difference out there. And that's probably what resonated mostly for me on it. So yeah.
Do you think to challenge it, and I'm thinking more about services because that's what we're in and people that are listening to us. But do you think in a smaller market like ours or like Jace's, you can risk soloing out your business? So, the charity one is a great example, Jace. Like, how many people is that actually going to appeal to? So I think you've got to be careful that if you do go down that path, that it's not actually going to push people away from your business at the same time, because we just don't have the market for that not to be a problem. Because I'm sure some people would look at liquid death and would say, well, that's definitely not for me. I'm going to go the other way, which might be Mount Franklin, and the ad is a natural stream, and I know that's where my water's coming from, and I want to be as simple as that. So I'm sure liquid death turns a lot of people off, just as Monster Energy would, and just as Red Bull would. So I think in a smaller market, you might need to be careful that you're not pushing people away because of whatever it is that you're going for.
That's a good point, Nick, because they do say, look, if you can win 20% of the people as raving fans, you can build a monstrous business, right? So you'll have 60% of people that are generic, and then you'll have 20% of people that hate your guts, right? It's like, and that's the interesting thing. And I think about our industry, you go, what's the biggest thing we think about that is a concern out there in society that involves finance? And it comes back to financial literacy, whether it's in business or whether it's kids. And people are not really taught how to manage their money, and it's such a big thing in life. So if you had a cause of that to really reshape that everyone loves numbers and loves managing their future, how do you do that in a funky way that's actually gets kids excited, gets adults more excited to, like we talk about it, have the goals and do the plans and everything like that, which is absolutely what should be done. But again, I think a future advisory, you think how do you create excitement around that by doing what we do in a unique way out there in the market? It's an interesting balance.
I would argue that you already do it, Jace, to a degree. I think
I agree.
Particularly your branding and dealing with a lot of your clients, it's futuristic industries seem to be, if that's even a way to explain it, but startups, tech kind of
e-commerce,
new age kind of industries that that you're dealing with mainly, and surely that's got a lot to do with your branding and your appeal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're matched up to, especially with our online presence, our social media, our website. If someone's in social media themselves, marketing, design, they're building a website to sell things, so e-commerce, I think when they look at us and go, oh, they must get it because they're investing in those things too. We have a lot of people that have left other accounting firms because they can't go beyond just the tax and compliance and then start to talk advisory around beyond the numbers. So, how to build a business, what ranking should the website be? What's a CAC? What's an LTV? Like all these different things that are important to, an e-commerce business as an example. So going beyond the numbers, you can't just be doing a tax return these days. And I think it's something we're trying to promote more and do more of, that we want to be doing advisory. Again, it's in the name and we have to progress more towards that. But I agree with you, Marty. I mean, one of the biggest issues that we're going to face is education. And this obviously not the episode where we're going to talk about education, but it's why we exist, right? So you go, Liquid Death had some fun with their branding. End of the day, they sell water for hydration. Cool. Why does the numbers game exist? The numbers game branding, again, we did the exercise ourselves. We're like, what's a fun way to brand our podcast? Well, we're going to talk about numbers. The numbers game is a bit of a play on, was it like the gambling? I think there's some reason it's banned overseas. We can't be the numbers game or trademark it because there's some kind of gambling scheme. But, we tried to do it ourselves. But and our underlying purpose was education, to make people, smarter with their numbers, which is what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think that's and thinking about maybe the podcast, I've answered my own question on it, is a way where we're doing that uniquely different. So. But again, I just want people to think about their businesses and think about, you don't have to be in the sexiest industry to actually create something quite incredible out there in the way you're positioning. And it is industry dependent, but I think we need to challenge ourselves on that, because otherwise things just get stale and things are generic. Even though the businesses do okay, but you go, it's just worth consideration and play with the idea and see what you come up with, because again, it might be one idea that blows your business up at a whole different level against your competition. And that's certainly in this situation what Liquid Death is doing, and it's fascinating to see.
No, awesome, Marty. Well, thank you for bringing us this episode about Liquid Death. For those that have made it this far, this was not an advertisement for Liquid Death. Marty just loves bringing exciting things to us, and I think it was all about uncracking that can at the start of the ep. If you are new to listening to us, or you haven't clicked the follow or subscribe buttons, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. If you're on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Don't be a sheep when you can be a purple cow. I'm just going to have a drink. Game over. Cheers.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.